Welcome once again to another episode of Strange Planet. Thanks as always for sticking me in your ear. And just a reminder, if you ever want to get deeper into Strange Planet, you might want to consider becoming a premium subscriber. And the best way to do that is to go to strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm. strangeplanet.supportingcast.fm. This episode, we're going to go off madly in all directions and delightfully and madly off in all directions. We're going to touch on astral travel, reversing the aging process. We might even get into Operation Blue Beam, what's on the moon, who is on the moon. Of course, we're headed back in that direction with a Canadian astronaut in the not-too-distant future. But We'll touch on many of these topics over the next 45 minutes with author, on-air personality, seasoned aircraft pilot, hypnotherapist, UFO researcher, and cosmic explorer, Aage Nost. Welcome, Aage. How are you?
Well, thank you. Thank you. I have coffee in hand and I'm ready to go.
Fantastic. Let's start off with you've got a weekly show at the Universal Consciousness Show. Tell us a little bit about that, where we find it, what you discuss.
Oh, okay. First of all, you'll find it at broadcastteamalpha.com. And we got a weekly show where Nori, Love, and we are interviewing excellent guests. And we've done this for about 4 years now, and we have some really impressive shows. So if you go there, just go into broadcastteamalpha.com or on YouTube, the same name. If you go to broadcastteamalpha.com, you can watch the shows there, but also go into the picture gallery because we have some incredible pictures of things that should not exist, but it does, like NASA prints of pyramids on the moon, and pretty much anything that you normally would not think of being real. We 5,000 pictures. So just go have a look.
All right, fantastic. And the links are in the episode notes, the episode description for this episode. So you have such a broad and varied background. You grew up on a farm in Norway, in Northern Europe. Let's talk about for a moment, though, martial arts, because, well, first of all, what type of martial arts were you involved with or are involved with?
Uh, I don't do much with that anymore. That was decades ago. Now, there was the Arts of the Ninja. And the ninja training is different because it's not very well understood. Because the ninja, that means the arts of invisibility. And there's some stories about the masters there. They just spin around and the cloak falls to the ground and there's nothing there. You know, you have those stories, whether it be true or not, we wonder. But the mind training that comes with that kind of thing is it's for the first year or so, that's just mind training. You learn how to walk around your opponent's head before and know what they think before they know what they're thinking. And you visualize the outcome and then you make it happen. So there is a lot of mind training that many other of the modalities don't have, but otherwise, I think martial art training absolutely should be part of the school system
I agree.
because of the mind training that you get with it. You become basically invincible in your mind and you can do anything you want to. And when you settle on something, you go for it and you make it happen.
You also learned, though, through your martial art training and training of the mind, how to avoid getting sick.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up because when I do these shows, I always like to tell people something that'll make their life better. And this can. There was the master told me, if you do this one thing, you will never be sick in your life. He said, no. He said, do it every day. You'll never be sick in my life. I have pretty much, not every day, but I've pretty much done that. And I've really never been sick in my life. And I'm older than some of the hills around here, so I'm kind of proud of that. What he said, sit down, take 20 deep breaths until you get dizzy. Then back off on your breathing a little bit so you stay slightly dizzy for 3 to 5 minutes. And when you do that, this is hard work. You're going to get wore out. 5 minutes into it, you're going to feel like you want to lay down and take a nap because it's hard work. And he said, when you do that, you flood the blood with oxygen. The oxygen gets everywhere in your body, snuggles up to bacteria and anaerobic bacteria and virus,
Mm-hmm.
and it kills it. Now, there's actually some science to this. In 1931, Dr. Otto Warburg, he got the Nobel Prize for discovering that no bacteria or virus can live in a heavy oxygenated and alkaline environment. So what the master told me is that oxygenate the body and the pathogens will go away, or they will die. So that's what I've been doing. And I tell you, if I am around people that have a cold and my nose starts running a little bit, I go off for myself and I spend 5 minutes by myself and just hyperventilate like that.
Right.
And that knocks out a cold. I have a video on our broadcast team Alpha down in the videos where I explain what I did. The title of the video is How I Knocked Out a Cold in a Day and a Half. I couldn't tell them the truth because it was done in about 30 minutes. The nose just flushed out and it's gone.
Right.
Because
That's
nobody would believe that I could do it in 30 minutes. So I called it an hour and a half.
it's amazing how our bodies are designed to self-heal. And you're right. I mean, I would say, I don't know what the number is, but the vast majority of us walk around, we are incredibly shallow breathers. We breathe from like the shoulders up.
Yeah.
Just, it's almost like skimming across a huge body of water instead of, taking a deep dive. And I believe everything you're saying with regards to that. Staying with health for a moment, though. Let's talk about the. I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but you said you're much older than some of the hills. So well, let's just go with that. But let's talk about the aging process. Um, and
Okay.
the. I mean, what do you think the secret is to, if not slowing the aging process, perhaps even reversing the aging process?
Um, Let me try to answer that question from the backside forward. I have done a lot of research on this and I found some very old people. The oldest guy that is verified by age by his government, I found him. He died from an accident at 256. Now, go on YouTube, not YouTube, but go to Google or maybe somewhere else and put in the search bar the 256-year-old man, and you are going to find some very interesting reading because science has found what causes aging and death. Now, they don't talk about that much because, there's no money in the solution. There's only money in the problem. So they want us to be sick and old and die so they can cash in the bond that they created in our name and placed into the market that we don't know about so they can get the money.
Hmm.
Now, that's another show.
Oh yes, I've done that show, and we'll do it again sometime. You and I.
But they found that the real reason why we grow old and die is because of the shortening of the telomeres at the end of the chromosomes inside our cells, every cell of our body. Because every time our cells replicate themselves, those telomeres, they get a little shorter
Mhm.
and shorter and shorter and shorter until there's nothing left. And then the end of the chromosome start fraying, and the cell can no longer replicate itself. And you get stuck with old cells in the body, and you get older, and you get more wrinkled, and you die. Now, there's many contributors to this. So this is not the only reason, but the main reason, that is it. So how do we stop this? How do we reverse that? Don't take my word for a thing here, because in 2009, 3 doctors were given the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process, and nobody told us. Think about that. I can understand why now, because of the depopulation program going on, but we should have been told that there is a way where we can stop the aging process. I read those papers. They're quite voluminous, but I suggest that you go to the Nobel Committee's website, scroll down to 2009, scroll down again to medical submissions, and read the papers. You're going to love it. Somewhere in those papers, one of the doctors said, and I think I can quote this. He says, if we had enough of this enzyme in our bodies, there will be no reason for anyone ever to die from old age. Well, that's powerful. And I know enough about the Nobel Committee that if they find anything in the papers submitted, they will throw out the whole thing. If they find something that is wrong
Right.
anywhere in there, they'll throw it out. Unless, of course, your name is Obama. It doesn't matter. But this is something that actually you should go read. That was in 2009. Now, that's 14 years ago. A lot of research has been done now, and we know what it takes to reverse the aging process. I am doing it. And their pharmaceuticals got a hold of this, and they started creating an experiment, and they came up with something they call actually a nutraceutical. It's called TA-65. It's a product that they say this will keep the telomeres from shortening. And I researched that. I researched the daylight out of it, and I found a lot of people say, yes, it's working, but the majority say it didn't do a thing for me. But it also set you back about $400 to $600 a month. So it's a little bit out of the range of most people, but hey, I'm cheap. I'm doing it the way the 256-year-old man is doing it, and that is by Chinese herbs. There is an awful lot of research, medical research, published in the medical journals, showing that the astragalus herb will stop the shortening of the telomeres if you take it in the large doses. And that will help also to create the enzyme that will stop shortening the telomeres. The enzyme that we want to have sufficient amounts of in the body is called telomerase or telomerase. That is depending on how you pronounce it. You can read about this also in medical journals. It shows up. If you put telomerase in the search bar, you'll find some things. And this is something that I've been talking about it for 4 years probably now, and I've been doing it for 4 years. And you said you weren't going to ask about my age, but it's 77.
Wow. 70.
So I'm doing something right. At
I
least I
would,
think so,
I would
because
say.
I work 12, 16 hours a day, and I got more energy than anybody I know.
So the herb is astragalus? Astragalus?
Uh, Astragalus will help you for the body to create this enzyme. So it's the enzyme that helps shortening
Right.
the shortening of the telomeres. The enzyme will do that, but the astragalus will help your body create sufficient amounts of this enzyme. Now, there's another one that I'm taking, and that is the jiaogulan herb. In China, that is called the immortality herb. I'm taking both of them. And the astragalus, I buy it by the pound. I think it's about $16 for a pound of that, and that lasts me about a month.
Would you make it as a tea? Do you put it in a tea or?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because it shows that if you take it as a tea, it actually is more efficient, but I don't do that. I mix it with water and juice, and then I drink it that way.
Okay, and then the other herb that you mentioned,
Yeah, the jiaogulan.
jiaogulan.
I wrote it down there. I don't speak Chinese. Jaugulan herb, I think it is. And that also works towards the same goal.
Which is producing more of the enzyme that will
Yeah,
prevent the shortening of our telomeres at the end of the
correct.
chromosome
Mhm.
when they duplicate.
Yeah.
And that's telomerase or telomerase is the enzyme we want.
Telomerase is what I'm calling it, yeah.
Right.
Now, that 256-year-old man, he was a martial art instructor and an herbalist. He was a martial art instructor for the Chinese army as long as anybody could remember. And he died from an accident at 256. And at that time, in the late 1930s, the New York Times newspaper had a reporter in Japan, and they found out about this. So they told him, go to China and verify this story. He went to China and he interviewed the people in the village where Li Xing Yuan lived. And they showed him papers where the government sent him congratulations on his birthday 3 times, 50 years apart. And that was at the latter part of. He was said to be born in 1600 and something.
1677. I'm just looking at the
Yeah,
website
there
now.
you go.
This was in Sichuan province.
Hmm.
Unbelievable. If true, I mean, wow, that does seem
Yeah,
fantastical. 256-year-old Ling Cheng Yuan. Um, all
it's
right.
amazing.
It is amazing. Let's talk
Yeah,
another topic I know that's near and dear to your heart, and that is astral travel. Uh,
yeah.
is this something that you're able to do at will? Because for many people, you know, an out of body experience, which I guess is somewhat different than astral travel, is usually accompanied by a near death event, or it tends to be spontaneous.
Yeah.
Other people have trained themselves to astral travel and have OBEs at will. How did it happen for you?
Well, first of all, I say for people listening to this that want to know more about reversing the aging process, I speak at length on it in a book that I wrote on spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal consciousness. And you'll find the book just about everywhere. But for the astral travel part of it, it is hard to wrap our heads around that we really can do this. It's not that hard to learn. All we have to do is practice some. And when people say that, yeah, I practiced and it didn't work, well, they tried it 4 times and it didn't work. Stay with it a little bit. I uh, I haven't learned how to do anything unless it took me most of the time longer than other people. But I think it took me over a month before I was able to get out of my body, turn around, and look at myself in the bed, and it scared the daylight out of me because I said, "Oh no, did I die?" And I stood there for a while. Then I looked at myself and I said, "Well, he's sleeping. I see the chest is moving, so he is not dead. But here I am." And that was a long, long time ago. But astral travel has been proven. One experiment I read about, I don't know, probably about 10, 15, 15, 20 years ago, there was a university that did this experiment. They had a guy laying on the couch, and in the next room, they had somebody sitting there writing symbols on a yellow pad. The guy that was on the couch, he got out of his body, walked through the wall, and he was watching the symbols being written. And then he got back in his body and he walked over and he told them, this is what you wrote, and the symbols, but he told them match what the guy in the other room had written. There are experiments and verifications like this, all kinds of them. Besides, there are hundreds of thousands of people that have had the experience of finding themselves outside of their body, but they rarely talk about it because the stigma of being, told you're nuts.
Right, right. And so, can you give us a hint? Is the protocol? Obviously, it takes a while to develop this ability. But what is the protocol? Is it achieved through meditation or what?
I would say yes for meditation, because meditation is usually the gate to higher consciousness. And a good way, if you want to, we can do about a 45 second to 1 minute mind exercise so you can get to feel what it actually is like to be outside of the body looking at yourself. We can do that later in the show if you like.
Actually, well, we'll step away here and take a quick
Uh,
time out, Augie, and then we can come back and we can do that experiment if you'd like. I'd like to.
okay.
All right, back with more of my conversation with Aage Nost right here on Strange Planet. Don't go away. Every new season, we find a reason to improve our lives and our health. And C60 Evo organic edible oils deliver noticeable benefits quickly. A spoonful in the morning delivers energy and endurance all day long. And I sleep deeper and wake up feeling refreshed because C60 ESS60 works. Carbon 60 received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1996 when it was used for industrial applications. C60 Evo's ESS60 is a breakthrough technology upgrading C60 to be safe for human and pet consumption. ESS60 has been called a miracle molecule because of the physical and mental benefits people are enjoying. Their lab has a proven track record of 31 years and thousands of happy customers across the world, just like me. So, treat yourself, your friends, and your family to C60 Evo and use my link, EVRS, to get 10% off your first order. Again, my link, EVRS, to get 10% off your first order. And we're back with author, on-air personality, seasoned aircraft pilot, hypnotherapist, UFO researcher, and cosmic explorer, Aage Nost, broadcast team alpha.com, the website. And we're going to conduct a short 1 minute experiment on preparing oneself for astral travel. So, what do we need to do?
Yeah, first, I want to say something, and that is that I am not a hypnotherapist because that involves the medical part of it. I was taught hypnosis by a magician back in Europe, and I'm not a therapist. I can delve into a little bit, maybe a little bit in related areas, but if I would do something like that, it's for themselves to heal themselves. I don't do any of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Anyway, now for the what I started out with was that laying in the bed and visualizing myself rolling out of bed and standing up, turning around and looking at the bed. Now, there's another method. That's how I started out, but there's another method that is just as good, actually have seemed to work better. And that is, if you want to do it's going to take 1 minute and I will talk you through it so that there won't be any dead air.
Okay.
Oh, we hate that.
That's true.
Uh, Visualize yourself sitting where you are and close your eyes right now. Close your eyes and you know where you're sitting. You know what clothes you have on. You know what your hair look like. You know where your hands are. You can visualize yourself sitting right there. And if you have a table ahead of you, that is okay. Visualize yourself standing up where you are, walking straight forward through whatever obstructions that there might be. Take 3 steps forward and then turn around and look at yourself sitting in the chair. You can see yourself in the chair. You see where your hands are. You see what your clothing is. You see your hair. You know what you look like. Look at yourself in that chair with your eyes closed. Visualize yourself. And now totally accept that you are standing here looking at yourself in that chair. You're right there in front of you. You can see your clothing, your hands, everything is there. You are looking at yourself. Now, turn around again away from yourself in the chair and back up 3 steps and sit down into yourself. And you're back in your body and everything is good. You open your eyes and you're back home. When you do this, spend a little more time standing there looking at yourself. And do it a few times before you open your eyes up. Don't do that on the first, second, third, or the fifth time. Just do it with your eyes closed first, so you get used to seeing yourself in the chair without outside visual stimuli to interfere with your vision of it. And then try to open your eyes. There is a concept feeding into this, and that's called astral blindness. You may find that when you're out there, when you open your eyes, you don't see anything at all. Don't be afraid of that. Just get back in your body and everything is good. Because this happens once in a while, that you can't see anything. But it's perfectly all right, because it is part of the, should I say, getting used to this environment. If you practice this for a while, you can also practice what I did when you're laying in the bed, roll out of the bed and stand up and turn around and look at yourself. It's a very good, it's a good process. And when you make it out, and if you keep practicing, you will. It's not make, you will. Because this is natural. You're stepping into another room, another vibration. The astral vehicle is a kind of like a gray form of energy that is coexisting with your physical body. It operates from memory only. It has no intelligence of its own, but it will know, and it can act on everything that you have learned and experienced in the physical body. It can deal with all that. So now the next question is, what can you do out there?
Mhm.
You find yourself that if you want to leave the room, you feel like you want to walk through the door. Yeah, that's probably how you start out, but you don't have to. You can walk right through the wall. And that's going to be a little strange starting out, because you probably want to stick your hand first through it and see that, oh, okay, it's all right. You can walk through the door. You can walk through the house. You can walk outside. But remember also, it works from memory. If you are scared of heights, and then you go up 1,000 feet looking down at your house, you may have the same feeling of being, oh, am I going to fall? You get used to those things because you learn things out there also. You get used to the environment. So when you realize that, hey, I'm 1,000 feet above my house, I'm not falling down. Now start exploring, go through the neighborhood, watch yourself walking down the street. And that is an interesting experience. If you walk, let's say most of the people are walking this way and watch yourself going that way, once in a while you will find somebody that is actually making eye contact with you.
Because they're astral traveling as well.
They could be, or they have a higher sensory perception that they can see you. There is also another third one that I don't know, but this is what I have been told by other astral travelers, and that is that there are alien beings that looks just like us, and they are coexisting with us, and they can see into the astral world.
So, are you limited to how far you can travel? I mean, you're not just relying on your legs and your feet to take you someplace. As you say, you can be 1,000 feet above your home.
Yeah.
How do you transport yourself through this other realm?
You basically, your transportation vehicle is your thinking, your thought. Let's say that you live in Arizona, which I do, and let's say you want to go and visit your aunt in New York. Think of her the way you know she looks, and that will be your destination. So you start traveling there, and it can happen very quickly. But the astral vehicle does actually have some limitations to distance, because the astral vehicle is connected to the physical body through a very thin and strong cord. We call it a silvery cord. If you go so far that you run out of substance in the astral vehicle to maintain that cord, something will happen that may not necessarily be pleasant, and that is that when you run out of cord, you'll slam back into your body, and that can hurt all over. So I've had that happen. I tried to go somewhere outside of the solar system, and the astral vehicle would not take me there. But there's another form of traveling outside of the body, and that is traveling by consciousness. Once you're out with your astral vehicle, it is much easier to understand also how you can take your consciousness and go somewhere. Then there is no limit. You can go to the moon, you can go to Mars, you can go to some of these places far away. And by visualizing yourself at home, you will always find your way home. I don't care how far away you are. Your your mind will bring you home. And besides, there's a safety valve in the universe. You are paired. Your consciousness is paired with your physical body, so that if all you have to do is to think yourself home, and you'll be home.
What happens to your physical body while your astral body and your astral vehicle is you're on a mountain somewhere in Tibet? Meanwhile, your physical body is sitting at your desk in Mesa, Arizona, or wherever you are, and someone were to come up to your physical body while you're astral traveling, what would they find? Would you be conscious? Would you be alert?
Well, I've had that happen, and the disturbance brought me back. I am not so sure if I've ever actually been disturbed and then continued answering questions or something while I was away, especially if your consciousness is away. I think it would be brought back, but that I don't know. My experience is that if I was disturbed, I would be brought back to take care of business.
Is this the same as, the Shaolin monks used to talk about bilocation? And there are accounts of saints bilocating. Is that the
Yeah.
same thing as astral travel, or is that something different?
No, I believe that is different, because by location, that means your physicals will be in two different places. So if somebody came up to you and shook your hand in one place, and the other place they you will be feeling solid in both places. And that's a different technology of mine that I have not explored. If you want to explore that one, there is a guy, his name is Father Tiso. He was a Catholic priest that was sent to India to explore this concept of ascension, and he found it. And we, Nori and I, my co-host, we interviewed Father Tiso one time, but he shows on his website that people are sending, and he showed the picture of the body disappearing. So what was remaining was just teeth and hair and nails in a bucket. That was the only thing I was left behind. All the rest of it, physical part of the body, gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take another time out. When we come back, more of my conversation with Aage Nost right here on Strange Planet. November reminds us to be thankful and focused on boosting our radiant health before winter. And I use a potent remedy that's improved the quality of my life and deepened my sleep as well. I take C60 Evo olive oil every morning, and I have a lot more energy and mental focus all day long. My workouts are easier, and I have a lot more endurance. If you're into competitive sports, this is a game changer. Health is our greatest wealth, and Pura C60 ESS60 really works. ESS60 is a breakthrough technology delivering the carbon-60 miracle molecule for humans and pets. Check out the C60 Evo holiday gift collections for everyone on your list. They make amazing skin, lip, and hair repair serum that deliver noticeable results quickly. C60 Evo's lab has an impressive track record of 31 years and, of course, my personal recommendation. You deserve the best remedies on earth, and so do those you love. Buy direct from the lab and upgrade your life today. Use my code EVRS to save 10% off your first order. Again, my code EVRS and save 10% off your first order. All right, Aage Nost is with us. When all of those strange floating objects were drifting across the United States and they were shot down, $400,000 missiles to shoot down. Well, in one case, we were told it was a spy balloon from communist China. We never really got any straight answers about the other ones. But there was this rampant speculation. Even the mainstream media was kind of feeding into it. That, and these were coming from normally very skeptical people on CNN who would normally just totally debunk any thought of a unidentified flying object or aliens interacting with human civilization. Suddenly, they were on board pushing this narrative that these could be unidentified flying objects. They could be extraterrestrial vehicles and so forth, which led some people to speculate, this is kind of a precursor for something called Operation Blue Beam, or a fake alien invasion. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that that's what was being played out with those floating objects?
Well, I think you're on the trail of that one. We saw the pictures, and there were private people that actually have telescopes that took the picture of the balloon. So the first one that we heard of, that was a balloon. Mm-hmm. We know that. But the government has now, Air Force actually has now, they admitted that we shot down flying discs that said there was alien vehicles. And that's all they say. I think we are being prepared for something. And that is a program that has been around since the early 1970s called Operation Blue Beam. If you go and read the papers, there's about 120 pages worth of papers on the Blue Beam project. And it used to be on the CIA website. You could find it there. But in there, they explain that this will be used to put a whole bunch of flying discs in the sky to unify people under one world government. They actually explain that in the papers. So what they are planning to do. And John D'Souza, an ex-FBI agent, a friend of mine here in Tucson, he speaks of it very eloquently when he says this is going to happen very soon. And what he says, what he's finding out from behind the curtain of the government is that they are using a holographic projector, most likely in space, to blanket the sky with alien ships. In between those holographic projections of alien ships, there's going to be some real ones, because we have flying discs that they made here, the American government. I shouldn't say the government, because it's a separate organization that answers to none. They're not part of the government, but they work through the government for the funding. Now, in between those holographic images of flying saucers, there will be some real ones that is shooting at stuff at the ground. They're shooting down maybe military airplanes or airliners. He suggested that they would think. And they're going to create havoc. They're going to scare the chocolate out of people. So they're saying, join together with your government so they can protect you under one global body of government that is run by the UN. One more thing, in those papers, they talk about the fact that they are going to induce a figure in the sky, and that will be Jesus coming back. You're going to see Jesus in the sky, and he's going to be talking to you in your head, saying, I am Jesus, your God. Join and do as your government tell you so they can protect you. Now, I'm not so sure exactly of the words on that one, but that's the concept, that they will be beaming to your head through a technology called voice to skull technology that was patented all the way back. The earliest one I see in 1978. They are microwaving it, and they are coding. They're coding voice onto the microwaves that hit your head, and you hear the voice. And now the later ones, they're saying that you can even induce feelings of fear, despair, or happiness, or anything of a feeling that they want you to feel. They can just beam it on through microwaves into your head, and you will have the feeling. This is scary.
Beyond, beyond. I talked to
Yeah.
a number. I've talked to probably a dozen or more targeted individuals over the years, and some, not all of them, but many of them report being victimized by remote electronic harassment, but also this voice to skull technology. So, do you think that these victims, these targeted individuals, are like a beta test for Project Bluebeam?
Very well could be, but it also could be, in addition to that, it could be people that is out there talking about stuff that they don't want them talking about, so they're gonna shut them down in one way or the other. And the thing about it is that we know this is real because their papers are there. And not long ago, a NASA administrator went on record and he said, before the year 2025, we will have an alien invasion. Right after that, NASA fired him. But then they hired him back and put him on an indefinite sick leave. So that's how it is now. That way they can control what he says.
So your friend, former FBI agent John D'Souza, has he he said that it was what, imminent? Did he give you a date? What would be the
He
time frame?
said very soon. And that's what he said at the meeting we had in town here. And I called him afterwards and I asked him, and he says, well, very soon, most likely this year.
Is there anything that can be done to thwart that?
Yeah, educate people to the fact that whatever you see up there is fake alien invasion. And so a lot of the numbskulls out there, that say, there's no such thing as aliens. Even if the government says so, there's no such thing. But there is something called the smoking gun document. You will find. I'll tell you. I wrote it down there because I wanted to tell you, and you probably know about this because you've interviewed so many people. Go to vault.gov.fbi and you go to UFO groups, and it's document number 6751. The CIA in that document explained that yes, we have alien or they call it extraterrestrial entities visiting our world, but most of them are interdimensionals. So I don't even know why we are running around asking, are we alone in the universe?
Right, they've
you know,
admitted it. We already have disclosure by they've admitted it, you're saying.
yeah. In fact, the Russians did it too. Um, that was probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago now. Medvedev was, I guess, the president at the time. He did an interview, and at the tail end of the interview, he was asked by one of the female reporters, "What can you tell us about the extraterrestrial and their presence?" And Medvedev, he thought the camera was off. So he says, "Oh yeah," he said, "when we take the office, it says we get the dossier explaining the extraterrestrials and who is coming to visit and so on. But they also tell us we can't talk about it because they're afraid of panic." He said that at the tail end, but the camera was running. He didn't know it. And the TV station, they ran the whole thing, but it disappeared. Nobody's talking about it.
It must
So,
exist somewhere. Someone must have seen it.
oh
Some
yeah, yeah. But it was taken down afterwards. But they ran it live, so it's out there.
Hopefully someone pushed record and it's still out there. We just have a few minutes yet. I just want to touch on this, and that is, of course, Artemis 2, which is the new NASA space program. After the shuttle program was canceled, it took them a number of years, and now we've got Artemis, and Artemis 2 is set to launch a mission later this year in 2024, including a Canadian astronaut, Jeremy Hansen, a Canadian former fighter pilot. And these astronauts are going to orbit the moon. This is all a precursor to a manned mission to the moon in 2025. What do you think they'll find? What's up there?
Ah, I wish we had about 4 hours. um, the thing about it is that there is all kinds of things, people, slaves on the moon, people that have been abducted here, most of them as kids, because they're easier to form their mind in compliance. And if you go to broadcastteamalpha.com, scroll down into the shows and find the documentary that Norilov and I did called The Moon Pictures. You will see NASA Prince of Pyramids up there, people walking on the surface without a spacesuit, buildings, and there's all kinds of things. And one of the pictures show green vegetation in the bottom of a crater. And it will show, you will have fun watching that 20-minute documentary because the pictures from the NASA, from the Russians, and there's one picture there from the Chinese Space Agency that show a huge building, square building. And as an astral traveler, I have one last one that I want to tell you. I believe it is in the Schrodinger crater in the bottom of it. you will find a building that is formed as a swastika. And that's also on the documentary that you'll see at Broadcast Team Alpha. And in that building, there's Germans, or actually Nazis. Because when the Nazis left Germany in 1942, went to the moon around and mapped it, they found that building. It's a huge 1.5 to 2 mile long building that has been there for a very long time. It was dilapidated, but they rebuilt it, and there they are having one of their bases. They flew there in the Honeyboo 2 in 1942. This is I've done quite a few shows on this. Wendell Stevens, Colonel Wendell Stevens here in Tucson. I interviewed him 2 or 3 times on my TV shows that I did here. And he explained that the Germans, yeah, they did go to the moon, and he had seen some papers in German on it, and he showed it to me over at house one time, and I know enough German to be able to read some of it, and yeah, that was it.
Wow.
So
Well,
it's there.
we've just barely scratched the surface. Uh, Shallow breathing, but I'm going to get you back on, Augie. It was absolutely delightful to meet you and speak with you, and I want to do more of these if you're game for it. I certainly am.
Oh, there's so much. I even got NASA. There's another one down there on Broadcast Team Alpha, the Mars pictures. You saw the rover has taken pictures of people up there, buildings, same thing as the moon. It is there for us, but what the government does, deny, and it works. The masses believe them. What they should start realizing that when anybody to figure out when somebody from the government is lying to you is watch them. When the lips move, they're lying to you.
There you go. Aage Nost, and the website again, broadcastteamalpha.com. It's a very, very rich website to be mined. And we're going to have you back on, Augie. Thank you so much for this. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe at strangeplanetpodcast.com.